The Las Vegas Raiders once again lost for the 10th straight time. And the Raiders, 2-12, things don't really look good at this point. But let's talk about what we kind of saw in this Falcons game. I think some questions were kind of answered for me at least, especially with the player on the offensive line that I've been feeling like the Raiders got to look to potentially move off of this guy. We're going to talk about that. Let's just get right into this game. So the Falcons Raiders ended up being 15-9. It was a lot closer in terms of the final score than I actually thought it was going to be. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, the Raiders sucked this game, man. This was arguably one of the worst offensive performances I've seen in a really, really long time. But the Raiders basically had 3 points up until like 5 minutes left, in which the Atlanta Falcons actually ended up missing a field goal. And that kind of flipped things around for the Raiders. When the Falcons missed that field goal towards the end of the game, it was 15-3. The Raiders drove downfield, scored a touchdown. And then they even ended up getting a stop, getting the football back, and once again drove right downfield. Got all the way down to about the 35-yard line, and the game kind of ended on 2 final Hail Mary pass attempts by the Raiders. But the Raiders had a real shot to win this game, and it's kind of interesting because the Atlanta Falcons are, within playoff reach while the Raiders are not. And honestly, the Falcons kind of suck, right? Or at least the Raiders defense kind of kept it close. To me, it's interesting because I look at the Raiders team right now, and it's bad coaching on the offense side of the football. The head coach is kind of average. The offensive line has had its struggles a little bit. The quarterback's really, really, really bad. But yet, we're staying close to a team like the Falcons as a playoff caliber team. They're 7-7. They're right there in terms of being able to make the playoffs. We've seen the Raiders, keep it very, very close with some other teams as well, like the Chiefs just a couple weeks back. We beat the Baltimore Ravens earlier this season. They're basically in the playoffs already. And it's just interesting as hell thinking about this team and kind of, what we have been able to do given the fact that we're 2-12, right? Our season's over. And truth be told, it's been over for weeks at this point, right? It's probably like 6-7 weeks since this Raiders season's been over. Let's talk about one of the things I noticed within this game, which was kind of surprising. I shouldn't say it's surprising. I guess it's kind of expected for the Raiders at this point. The Raiders defense played lights out once again. You got to give so much credit to some of these guys on the defense side of football. But I want to start right away with giving the rookie defensive tackle. The Raiders picked this kid up after I think the first week of the season. Jonah Lalu with the Indianapolis Colts, 7th round pick, gets cut, rookie. And the Raiders bring this guy in. And what's crazy is the Raiders went ahead and released certain guys that were on this roster. And they're like, hey, we'd rather have this guy with the Colts. In fact, I think that was when the Raiders actually released Byron Young. They ended up releasing Byron Young. They bring in Jonah Lalu. And it's interesting because this guy's actually been pretty good. Now, he's gotten extended playing time because of the fact that Christian Wilkins ended up getting hurt. But the guy had a sack today. He had another play in which Patrick Graham had him drop back into coverage. I think it was like the final possession that the Falcons had the ball. The Falcons were trying to pick up the first down. This guy drops back into coverage and he breaks the pass up of Kirk Cousins, right? So, this guy's pretty legit. And generally speaking, the Raiders defense has been playing really, really good. And one of the good things with the Raiders is that as we go into next season, assuming, Antonio Pierce, Patrick Graham are retained, going into next season, the defense is going to be really, really good for the Raiders. A healthy Maxx Crosby, a healthy Malcolm Koonce, a healthy Christian Wilkins. Considering the fact that we had Divine Diablo out for an extended amount of time, Marcus Epps, who was the starting safety, he got knocked out, obviously, at some point this season. Given the fact that we can have all these guys healthy, and even if we don't retain some of these guys, but just given the fact that, the Raiders can go out there and draft some guys, maybe sign some guys in free agency, and they can actually come back as a team on the defense side of the football that's having success without some of its star players. I think this defense is going to be very, very good next year. And I'm actually looking forward to that. This season has been really, really poor. The offense really hasn't been able to get it done. But I think if there's one thing that the Denver Broncos have kind of proven this year, it's that you can have success with the rookie quarterback and play conservative as long as your defense is able to get it done. And I think this Raiders defense will be able to get it done next year. Adam Butler had a couple of really nice plays as well. He had one play in which he crushed Chris Lindstrom, who some people think is the best right guard in the NFL. Butler basically took this guy, drove him right back into the quarterback. Robert Spillane had an interception. Really, really nice job by him to be able to bring that interception in. Robert Spillane, man, is one of those guys that deserves so much credit. The Raiders got to make sure to lock this guy in for the next couple of years because I think Robert Spillane is one of those guys that From the time he's gotten here, he's been consistent. He's been very, very good in so many different aspects. And he's one of the leaders on this roster, right? You cannot overlook that fact. And the guy's had 4 interceptions since he's been with the Raiders, right? So got to give Robert Splint a lot of credit. A guy that deserves no credit and a guy the Raiders got to really think about how they're going to move forward with is going to be Jack Jones. If you guys did not watch this game, I know a lot of you guys probably didn't. Jack Jones got beat early on for a touchdown. And we're at the point where Jack Jones has given up 7 touchdowns this season. And I understand, sometimes, we see these plays and the broadcast points it out and everybody just thinks that that's all this guy ever does. That's not always the case with Jack Jones, right? Jack Jones, for the most part, does a pretty good job over the course of a game, right? A quarterback looks towards Jack Jones and he's not going to throw. He's going to hesitate a little bit. But the thing with Jack Jones is he's been getting beat, and it's the same thing. It's just double moves, right? Today it was a sluggo. Last week it was like a fake screen, and the receiver just ended up going. The week before that it was a fake screen, and the guy that's blocking ended up releasing. And Jack Jones is looking to just jump these plays, and he's giving up big touchdowns. And he did it once again against Drake London today. So to me, Jack Jones has to get that shit fixed. If the Raiders want to have success, obviously not this year, but going into next year, our cornerbacks have to be a lot more fundamentally sound than where they're kind of at. I like Jack Jones, the fact that this guy can make plays, but I don't want him to, quote unquote, make plays if he's going to give up big touchdowns. It doesn't make sense to me to allow the Raiders to have this. Other teams watch tape just the way Jack Jones does, right? So Jack Jones thinks that, hey, I know a screen's coming or whatever. I've seen this on tape. You got to realize other teams have also seen that you're going to jump plays and they're going to come at you. So Jack Jones has to kind of get it corrected. And I'm not looking to cut Jack Jones, right? Some people have kind of posted it on Twitter. I'm not cutting Jack Jones. I'm keeping Jack Jones, right? Next year, it's his final year of his rookie contract. Let the guy play it out. Let's see what this guy can do coming into next year. Hopefully the Raiders can have a little bit more success with the consistent pass rush, right? Because right now our secondary is technically doing a better job than the actual pass rush, right? The secondary is kind of leading this Raiders defense right now. Next year should flip, right? It'll be the defensive line that gets home a lot quicker. Hopefully with the 3 guys back and healthy. So we'll see what ends up happening. Special teams was really, really bad for the Raiders today. I would make the argument one of the reasons why the Atlanta Falcons won today was because of their punter, as well as because of our inability to actually punt the football. Field position is one of those elements that a lot of people kind of overlook at times. The Falcons multiple times today pinned us back. I think 2 or 3 times within the 10-yard line, maybe twice within the 5-yard line, and one of them even led to a safety for the Falcons. The Raiders were not having any luck, right? Every single one of these guys' punts ultimately landed within like the 5-10-yard line. For the Raiders, it was the opposite. We had 2 punts blocked, and if it wasn't a blocked punt, it was basically a bad punt or whatever, right? And we know AJ Cole's obviously not the issue, right? That comes down to blocking and making sure you're able to allow AJ Cole to punt the football. But the punt game really impacted this entire team. And it's kind of crazy to think because, the Raiders could have probably beat the Atlanta Falcons had we had a competent quarterback. And I hate doing this because obviously Desmond Ridder is a Las Vegas Raider player, but Desmond Ridder sucks. He's a really, really, really bad quarterback. Yes, he had success on the final 2 drives, but what the Raiders did in the final 2 drives, that's not generally how you are able to play football in a general game, right? Part of game management, part of how a team kind of runs their offense is to get out there and kind of waste clock, maybe give your defense that rest. You're not going to come out there and just throw the ball, hurry it up, because then you can quickly go 3-and-out, right? You want to be able to design your offense. You want your offense coordinator to call the plays, and you want to be able to kind of run those scripted plays as opposed to just hurrying it up over the course of a game, right? So although the Raiders found success on the final 2 drives, generally speaking, over the course of the game, the Raiders were really, really bad on the offense side of the football. Sure, some of that could have been because of the fact that Sincere McCormick ended up going down early on, but also Desmond Ridder struggles to play within structure. In fact, talking about Desmond Ridder, there was a 4th down play on that final drive of the game. 4th and 8, Desmond Ridder threw it 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage on 4th down, right? And to me, it's crazy that the Raiders somehow picked that up because Amir Abdullah basically made one man miss and then he ran away from the second man, right? But Desmond Ridder is not a good quarterback, and I'm not surprised that he's not a good quarterback. He's not the type of guy that's going to throw the football to carry a football team. But, you know, it is where it is, right? The Raiders are down 2 quarterbacks. Ritter is really our 3rd quarterback, and even then he wasn't actually even on the roster up until just a couple weeks back. So it is what it is. I don't expect the Raiders to win another game. Truth be told, the Raiders probably themselves don't want to win another game, right? The Raiders want to lose out. They want to have the number 1 overall pick, which is what the Raiders technically have right now, right? So if the Raiders lose the rest of these games, we should theoretically have the number 1 overall pick. I don't think the strength of schedule is going to change much, given the fact that the Raiders have played who they've played, and the Giants have played kind of who they've played. And, we have 3 playoff teams in our division as well. So I don't think the strength of schedule is going to change much at this point. So if the Raiders lose these next couple of games, we will have the number 1 overall pick, which means we could probably take either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, depending on who the NFL scouts and the general people think is like the number 1 quarterback coming out. Whoever Tom Brady think is the number 1 quarterback. It's going to be an interesting next couple of games as we kind of go forward. I kind of wanted to see Carter Bradley play a little bit before Desmond Ridder had the last 2 drives, one of which ended up being a touchdown. I saw Carter Bradley throwing some passes on the sideline. I thought this guy was ready to come in. Ridder had just thrown his first interception, and I wanted to see Carter Bradley come in. I wanted to see this guy maybe throw the ball a little bit out there. But the Raiders chose not to do that, obviously. And I guess it was a good thing because Ridder ended up driving right downfield, scoring the touchdown. But the Raiders season's over. Now, one of the things that we did, I think, learn in this game a little bit is the offensive line has to be 100% corrected going into next season. In my opinion, the Falcons' defensive line kicked the Raiders' offensive line's ass. Now, obviously, we'll have to watch the tape and really figure out who it was that kind of lost, but it seemed like Jordan Meredith multiple times kind of got held up, and whoever it was stood him up, kind of tossed him around out there. It seems like there was no push from Meredith at all, pretty much for most of this game. DJ Glaze got his ass kicked. Arnold Ebiketie hit him for a couple of plays. I think there were like 3 or 4 plays in which DJ Glaze lost. One ended up being a sack on Ridder. Even on the inside, Dylan Parham, not great. Left guard, not great. The offensive line has to get corrected going into next season. I watched Caleb Williams play a little bit this year. They obviously played tonight against the Vikings. I didn't really watch that game. I watched the first 30 minutes of it. But I've watched Caleb Williams this year, and one of the reasons why this guy's struggling is because of the fact that, 1, their coaching is really, really bad. But 2, it's because of the fact that their left tackle is not very good. Braxton Jones was like a 5th-round pick. 3rd year, they thought maybe he could turn it around. He struggled this year. They drafted another guy in Karen Amagaji out of Yale. He struggled as well. I think he started tonight. And to me, if the Raiders go out and they go get a rookie quarterback, it's going to be the same thing. You got to make sure your tackle position's 100% secured, right? It is by far the most important position on the offensive line, especially in pass pro. You got to be able to have those guys there. Because on the inside, you always have that 3-on-2 situation, but on the outside, it's mostly 1-on-1, right? So the Raiders got to make sure they're able to figure out that right tackle position. And I'm not saying it's not DJ Glaze, but, I saw Arnold Ebiketie kick his ass multiple times today. And, that's just like me watching it without the actual tape. When I watch tape, I go back and watch every play like 5 times to see what's actually happening out there. And noticing a guy getting his ass kicked on, with the broadcast view, it's probably a lot worse putting the tape on. But we'll see, right? We'll watch that tomorrow. The Raiders got to figure it out, man. O-line needs to be figured out. We need a quarterback that can play within structure. I'm sure we're going to draft one of the top 2 guys. And then we also got to get a running back, man. Sincere McCormick, he flashed a little bit. I think he might have had 1 or 2 big carries today that kind of came back. But it's not consistent. You got to get a running back. If for the Falcons, if Bijan Robinson goes down, they still have Tyler Algier, right? Tyler Algier should be our Sincere McCormick, or Sincere McCormick should be the Tyler Algier, right? We got to get our Bijan Robinson caliber running back, and this next class has a lot of good running backs. So we'll see what ends up happening. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. The Raiders are 2-12. Also, let me know, man, who's your guys' quarterback? Is it Shedeur Sanders or is it Cam Ward? Let me know why and who you guys think is the number 1 quarterback. Drop a comment down below, thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time with another video.